Well, I got here as soon as I could, doll. I just didn't quite understand your phone call. But, Dr. Jones-Leibowitz always keeps her word. I'm just going to put this over here. An electroshock unit. Well, isn't that something? Well, I know everyone thinks they're the bee's knees, but to tell you the truth, Dr. Rockefeller of the American Electrotherapy Association is concerned about the sale of these units to lay people. Yes, your son did tell me that your baby's sleeping. Let me just take a look at your unit here, and we'll be quiet. I see. Well, we'll just set it up a little bit. Kind of tinker a little bit here. I am a little bit disheveled today. That is true. I think, well, to be quite honest, when I got out of medical school, I was tired of dressing like a fuddy-duddy. Women in medicine, it's possible, but it's a little bit difficult, a little looked down upon in this day and age, because everyone thinks already you must be a licentious person in the bedroom and outside if you want to work and other things like that. And of course, flappers. There are flappers who behave that way with the disease risk and all, giving us all a bad name. But the very first time I saw a flapper girl, I just knew it was something I had to do myself. Now, looking at your unit here, yes, I also hear a little bit of crackling. We need to put, no, not the belt. I have seen that ad. Those can severely burn you, and they are not recommended by the American Electrotherapy Association. In fact, they're kind of seen as scams. Well, it's just, the Sears catalog. I can look through it more for you. I would be glad to help you. Yes. Let me just get this on your shelf if that's okay. Where did you... this is an old one. Honey, this is like 20 years ago. We don't do any of this anymore. Sure cures for the tobacco habit, for the opium habit, wonder heart cures, a Mexican headache and neuralgia cure, Sibean catarrh snuff, oh my goodness. Blood pills, nerve and brain pills, wonderful little liver pills, cathartic pills, even Dr. Warden's female pills. My dear, did you get this from your grandmother? The one who had the flu last time. Or who had the flu a while back. Obesity powder is a boon to fat people. And this is where you see that. But nobody uses these anymore. Well, some of these. But, so the way ours work, I'm going to give you this catalog back, and we're going to continue modifying our little machine. So there's two techniques of applying current. One, general fluidization. One electrode is placed beneath your feet, and sometimes people submerge the feet and the electrode in water, but I have found that to have adverse effects. I don't usually do electrotherapy because, as I said, it's kind of falling to specialists or falling out of practice currently. The American Electrotherapy Association is still part of the, or important to the American Medical Association, but You can also do local fluoridization, where you put both electrodes on either side of the part of the body that's affected. About 20 minutes. Current's not recommended for more than 10 to 20 minutes. No, my dear. Several times a week, even daily. It's believed that electricity can loosen unhealthy blockages and promote circulation. We are inherently electrical creatures, after all. So, you're worried about a headache. Well, would you let me look at your head a little bit? Just a little bit. I just want to make sure. Any dizziness with this? No? Can you follow my fingers? Great. Can you tell me when you see my fingers? Wonderful. Can you stick out your tongue for me? Open your eyes real wide. Shut them real tight. Puff out your cheeks. Great. Can you do this? And this? Great. I'm sorry. I know I am a little tan doll. It's been a little bit of a mess. I've been preparing to go to Nyasaland. Yes, the British protectorate in Africa. And part of the way I've been preparing, and doll, I've been trying to get warm. I've heard it's warm there. And yesterday I was just too warm and I burnt. I burnt? Oh, well, you're just the cat's pajamas for saying so. Thank you, doll. No, so the Brewster's medicated electricity is a no-go. No, no, no. That's the battery in the glass bottle. No. And the vapor that you use for headache, no. That's not the vapor generated by the electrical battery. No, no, no. Electrical combs and hairbrushes don't cure baldness. No. Very popular. And the electric flesh brush, I also don't recommend. Electric insoles for rheumatism, gout, cold feet, all those pains and aches. Well, ironically, the electric garter might work because it stimulates musculature that's in a spasm. It's just, you can't just apply electricity willy-nilly. The American Electrical Association recommends a doctor do these things. Rings and pendants, most of those are nothing more than alternating metals. And no, they don't activate with contact with the skin. Mostly, it's not real. No. Well, and they can be expensive. $75 for a deluxe model. I think we're almost set up here, doll. I will put this electrode up here on your head. And since we're focusing on the head, I don't think we'll do head and feet. We'll do head and head. Okay? I'm gonna go over here. And here. Okay. Oh no, CB Harness was, that's in London. That was a long time ago. I heard that they had been sued, that belt company. A customer was very badly burned. Your grandmother might have used an electric belt, but I'm very glad she's lost it because I don't think you should use it. Well, the advertisements in our books are a little bit less advertisey, doll. They more speak directly of the uses rather than shouting the cures. The new stuff, vibrating machines, the violet ray. I'm just going to continue checking the dial here. The electric boys. A lot of new home devices people are using. You're right. Currently, electrotherapy electrotherapy is part of a physical therapy association now. Oh, no, the famous Alfred, no. Oh, that's right, that's the correct name. Flexner, Dr. Flexner. Although actually he's not a doctor, did you know that? Even though he wrote that report. Not a doctor. Abraham Flexner. Am I wrong? Is he a doctor? Oh. You know what, you're right. I read his report. I didn't like it. Didn't like it. Alright, we're going to turn this on. Well, here's the thing, doll. He's arguing for a drastic reduction in medical schools from 150 to 30. He says that's going to improve quality, but let me tell you, that's going to mean a lot more poor people aren't going to have doctors. The way medicine is going in this country, I'm not for it. No. No, I wouldn't want anyone to blip him off. I'm just saying. He wants medical funds to be controlled by corporate and government grants, not by students. So he wants the student not to be the employer. In other words, he doesn't like the commercialization of medicine. But let me ask you something. If the student is no longer the primary way they're getting money mostly from the government and corporations, then who controls medicine? Do the students who are going to become doctors control medicine? Or does it become philanthropists and CEOs and politicians who control medicine? I just don't think it's going to go in a good direction, doll. I have to disagree. I will say, you are a little bit, I like coming to see you. And I think the upside of your hypochondria is that you are very educated. Most of my patients haven't heard of the Flexner report. So, I always thought a school should be able to bring a deficient person up to par, right? That's a good school, a good teacher. I had a teacher when I was in primary school who revolutionized my life. I was not a good student at first, but she brought me up to par. That's what I believe in. But Flexner believes in only selecting the most intelligent people to begin with for medical school, because they want to make sure they can deal with the rigors of medicine, but they're artificially creating the rigors of medicine. Of course, I agree with him. We should require those basic science, but you know, the American Medical Association has literally stated it's their goal to reduce the number of physicians. Well, doll, it's about money. If there's less physicians, the price of a physician goes up. Absolutely. Also, all these schools that they want to get rid of, these evil commercialized schools, they're often training rural physicians. If they decrease to only schools in the big cities, well, poor people aren't going to get doctors. I did hear that. I did hear Flexner say no doctor is better than a bad doctor. But what about an okay doctor? Can't we compromise? Do we have to get rid of the schools? Well, I see a little bit of hypocrisy in that, because the AMA says, all they say, that people who are trying to make too much money out of medicine are quacks. So people who create medical devices, even if they're devices that have some evidence for them, anyone who tries to make any money while being a doctor must be a quack. So they are denying creativity and individual expression. So how then are they going to, in a capitalist world, make sure doctors still get paid? Well, if doctors aren't allowed to do it through their own creativity, or they lose their standing, well, instead it has to be done artificially, like through monopoly. I don't hear this crackling sound that you're hearing, but we'll see. What we might do is I might do more of that osteopathic manipulation on your forehead that I had done previously. Well, and that's another thing. They want to get rid of the osteopathic schools. They don't want them competing with them. So in your grandmother's time, people would go from training right out of high school. But now, out of high school, with the way Flexner wants, it's going to take 13 or 14 years before that person becomes a physician. Well, my question is, can't we have a middle? Can't there be a program where a physician to-be comes out of high school and immediately starts studying the basic sciences and working under a physician? Why do they have to finish studying and then work under a physician? What happened? What's wrong with apprenticeship? Which is often easier for poorer people who can afford to be in school all the time. I could. My parents were very wealthy. Don't promote that stereotype. Just because the Leibowitz means that I'm Jewish doesn't mean that's where I got my money. But yes, my parents were wealthy. And it was possible for me to school in school. But apprenticeship would be preferable. So even when I was in school, the time was increasing, and now Flexner wants to increase it even more. Well, here's the thing. Flexner was paid by Rockefeller for the report. The Carnegie Foundation as well. Oh, well, 5 years ago, killed the profession of social work. He doesn't believe in social workers. The thing is, if somebody says something is scientific fact, and there's a lot of money behind them saying it's scientific fact, well, my dear, that has a lot of power. And him saying in his report, with all the Rockefeller money behind him, that social work is a scam, well, that has a lot of power. I do feel something weird on my... Do you see it though? Okay, I'm good. I have. So, I have heard of the Radium Beauty Fed. I have. A lot of places are seeing it as... Well, I've heard in Japan there are even radium springs you can go to. Not just for beauty, but for health as well. So, we have our modern medicine, like radium. I don't use radium, but it is very popular. But who's to say that things like diet and osteopathic manipulation have to be gone, and we only have to have pills and radium? Well, you can't sell diet. It's very difficult. It's possible, but it's difficult. And you can't sell eating certain foods. But of course, after the Flexner report, the American Medical Association really wants to destroy the competition that is focused on things like diet. Well, I mean diet for heart disease and those kinds of things. Well, for the American Medical Association, obviously funded by the Rockefellers, a pill is preferable. And of course, pills. This is where my behind the scenes. Pills are... Doll, you can sell a pill. Rockefeller can make money off a pill. Rockefeller can't make that much money off of eat your greens like your mama said. And same with the AMA. Oh, this is around the world. The Rockefellers are deciding what is good and bad medicine all over the world and destroying any competition. So in Mexico, and I'm just adjusting something here, doll. Do you still hear that crackling? Well, I'll do a little bit of gentle massage manipulation while you have the crackling. We won't want this treatment to last longer than 20 minutes, of course. I didn't look at the clock, did you? Well, in Mexico, they're working with the socialist government because it has a lot of power. And to eliminate hookworm. And they're deciding to get rid of Mexican traditional healers while incorporating Mexican midwives. So they decide what's good and bad medicine. My fear is, it was only 30 years ago, 20 years ago, that we were doing the not so wise things like your grandmother mentions. That was modern medicine. So what if our modern medicine is also wrong in some ways? So then what happens if we shut down discourse and we decide this is the only kind of medicine you can do? Only radium and pills. And shock therapy, or physical therapy now, really. If we're shutting down other forms, what if 30, 40 years from now we are wrong about something? But we're so entrenched we can't undo it. Because we killed all the medical schools that were teaching any opportunity for an alternative. I'm a big fan of the scientific method, doll. I think it's just the bee's knees, and the scientific method needs discourse, doll. It really does. So, let the Mexican traditional healers do their thing. The best way to combat ignorance is not with silence, but with facts. Well, and in the report, doll, it's specifically stated that in Latin America, not the Flexner report, a different Rockefeller report. Of course, I look at things behind the scenes. Well, they specifically stated that in Latin America, the cost of eliminating malaria would be less than the current economic cost of having malaria for the labor force in the oil fields. Excuse me. And the cotton fields. So now the oil fields are being nationalized in Mexico, so the Rockefellers can't have that, but they still want to help Mexico, and there's still the cotton fields, the lumber field. I'm not saying it's all wrong. I'm not saying that the pills are a bad thing. I love pills. I'm saying, though, I think reducing the number of medical schools from 150 to 30 could have consequences that last for 100 years. Maybe people in 2023 will still be suffering those consequences if we make that mistake now. That's all I'm saying, doll. I think there are people motivated by meaningful things. I'm a little concerned about this on your machine, so I'm going to, Gates and the China Medical Board. He read Practicals and Principles of Medicine by Osler, and it basically became his Bible. He had a letter by McKibben, right, about advancing Western civilization against the heathens and evangelistic propaganda. He began to very Gates disliked what he saw as evangelistic propaganda, and he felt that scripture and everything would be advanced with medicine, not with Bible things. So he has some very beautiful Good Samaritan words in there, and he wants the Rockefellers and their new medical schools to control missionary doctors that go over there to China so that they study at his Rockefeller medical schools, because he hates the current medical school system. Again, it's too free. So his belief is that the world will be improved via the evangelism of Osler, via the practices and principles of medicine. Oh, I'm not saying if he is not a believer or not in, his Christian God. I'm saying his version of evangelism is more focused on medicine. So, and there's good to that, I think. But there's also a lot of, like, he knows best. And what if there are people in China who know? Or what if one of the other missionary doctors knows best? We don't know who knows best all the time, so competition is good, I think. Anyway, the others who took over his foundation didn't care about medical missionaries. They care about training the Chinese elite, so it looks like the medical schools won't be geared towards this grand vision of the medical gospel. Instead, it's going to be about training the Chinese elite, and then the same system in the United States. You control the medical school, you control the drug distribution, you control the moolah. I have heard that one of the reasons they want medical schools over there is that they want Asians to stay over there and not come here. So, it's some racial ideas. Well, Doll, we talked last time about the quotas for Jewish people in medical school, so how do you think I feel about blocking someone based on their ethnicity? Well, and let me tell you, now in 1925, I think Flexner, and this is just a rumor, of course, I think he's concerned about how medicine is changing. Excessive burden on medical students, everyone required to graduate together without any individual flexibility, everything counted by hours and courses instead of by accomplishments, creating like-mindedness in every way. But I don't think he realizes how much of that is because of his report. Because the excessive burden is, he emphasized that everything that everyone was doing was incorrect, was wrong, and so that everyone needed more. We needed more and longer school. And of course, it's cheaper if this is all based on corporate funding. The corporations and the government cannot afford to keep people studying for a long time. So if a student, then of course the prices must go up, because if only a few people, if the corporations and the government are paying, the school isn't doing competition so much as demanding in some ways. I'm not an economist at all, but I can tell you the prices are going up with less competition and with the students and their pockets not setting the prices, right? And if the student isn't the one setting the prices, they can't set their schedule. They can't say, I need 6 years for this medical degree. I cannot do it in 4. They can't do that. There is no flexibility because Flexner has helped us to decide that you have to be good enough. You can't be made good enough. You have to start good enough. And if you aren't, goodbye. So I think he doesn't realize that his own complaints have led to this. I heard, he said, our present fetters were forged in order to compel wretched medical schools to give unfit medical students a better training. Now that that end has been measurably accomplished, the means have become a fetish blocking further improvement. So now he is encouraging institutions not to be discouraged by state boards and medical associations from advancing, but it's too late. He's already helped them to centralize power, doll. So now the medical schools can't try something new. Everything's decided by the few people up at the top. And I believe we're still going to have scientific advancement. The resources of the corporations and the government are a wonderful thing. But I think you are going to have a difficulty with free thinkers. There's going to be a lot of like-mindedness and following the leader, because otherwise your license is in danger. Well, that's a good question. What's the limit at which we decide somebody is definitely harming somebody? For sure, 100%. A knife can be for murder or for surgery, after all. So at what point do we decide that? And at what point do we realize that we might be wrong and something we're doing might be incorrect? I think you have to prove harm. That's what I think, before you ban a practice. Well, his mistake doll, I think, and I'm gonna shut this off now, but his mistake, I think, is assuming that man is good. Well, that's from your Maya. Well, my rabbi was talking from your Maya last week, and I believe that it was one of our Haftarah portions. I don't talk about it a lot at all, but man is complicated. I don't know, good or bad. I don't believe that we're born with evil. I believe that we're poisoned, and we tend towards that, but that anyway, but I believe man is flawed. We can read Bereshit or Genesis different ways, but I certainly believe man is flawed. And if man is inherently flawed, giving all of the power to a few of them rather than distributing it does increase your risks of failure, I think. And giving the elite more control over the students, I think, makes things worse, because state medical boards aren't made up of the most selfless people, and medical guilds are out to make money by blocking out other forms of practice. If it were true that these people up at the top, these medical associations and these medical boards, if it were true that they were there only for good, then it would be a different thing, doll. It would absolutely be a different thing. I'm going to shut this off now. I hope you don't mind. I don't think that we should keep it going forever and ever. I'll take this off here. Well, and fraudulent credentials are still a problem. There was a $1,000 fine on someone recently in the news in Idaho or Indiana, doll. I can't remember exactly. One of those states that begin with I. But to me, the solution is cracking down on fraud, on the people who commit the fraud, investigating those people, not decreasing the number of medical schools. I know they've called it medical school mills and everything, but it's not better. It's not better. It's not better. Trying to solve the problem at the root is only useful if you found the actual root. This battery, ma'am, is an example. In some ways, it foreshadows the future. Because if the government can regulate these things, these batteries, can keep people from obtaining them, and it can slow down their creation. We can protect people from harming themselves with them, like with the belt. But do we need to wait until it's proven that the belt is bad, and then we ban it? Or are we going to try to hop in front of things and stop things before they hit the market. And the problem with stopping things before they hit the market, as I see it, not being an economist at all, while I'm not very comfortable with you having this battery and it not being a doctor's office, I also recognize that the price of these will go up exponentially if a lot of money has to be spent in making sure and in checking before they hit the market. Do you know what I mean? Basically, if we're stopping them before they hit the market, then there's a lot of work that's done working with the government, there's a lot of work that's done paperwork, there's a lot of work that's done in, well, in many ways, and that all costs money. So then the product is pricier in the end. On the other hand, of course, we want to keep people safe, but I wouldn't be surprised if in Europe in the future it will be easier to obtain therapeutic devices at home than in the United States, because in general in Europe right now the trend is to help people obtain medical devices. Here in the United States there's this pull between these greedy sons of bees who want to pump out as many fraudulent devices as possible so that they can make money. There's the pull between them and between the elite, who want to make sure that only the elite can access these things. The problem, the person who suffers in this war, is the poor person, usually the underprivileged patient. Because if costs go up, because the elite win, the poor person suffers. If they're lied to, at least they can make a decision about their lie, but the market, I don't know who suffers to you have greater suffering on the people who get the wrong device and harm themselves, like the belt. So, but can you punish a crime before it's been committed is really the question in some ways. And where's the limit between stopping someone or harming someone else and preventing progress? And I think evidence is the limit, but it is difficult when and where we apply that evidence, because it's not going good. It's not going in a good direction. The more we give power only to the elites, it hasn't worked in medical education. I don't know that it's going to work in medical devices. We'll see, doll. We'll have to see. In the meantime, I have talked your ear off, and, well, I don't know as much about the economy as I do about medical school. And I will say, if you would like to help with the medical school shortage, the medical doctor shortage, I do know about that, and I would be glad to give you some information on it. I'm just not a big fan of the Rockefellers in general. I think they've done good things. I'm not going to question their motives. It could be that they have very good motives, and it's wonderful they want to use their money not to do awful things, but there's a little bit of arrogance, and I think arrogance is very dangerous. I think arrogance is where we are sure that we know best, and therefore we're going to force it on other people using either government or money. And that's kind of what you see right now with the medical school silencings. So what are we going to do? How do you allow more medical schools? There was a saying somewhere. I think it might have been in the British it was something that, I know somebody who is writing something they want to put in the British Medical Journal. It's not out yet. And they said, the surest way to ensure the survival and perseverance of a lie is its persecution. In other words, the more you push down a false medicine, the more people will look at it, because they'll be like, oh, why are you trying to keep me from getting this? Well, this must be good. And then you have a cult that develops around it. If instead you use the truth, open competition, open conversations, that's when it starts to die, which is, I think, what we've seen happen naturally with electrotherapy, which hasn't been aggressively controlled by the people at the top. Instead, societies have spoken, people have spoken openly, people have been sued and punished, and therefore other people have been protected. The conversation has been allowed to evolve, and we have gotten rid of the old belts like what your grandmother used. And perhaps this conversation will continue, and we will eventually change much of what we do. I don't know, we can only work with what we have right now. But I certainly think it is arrogant for the American Medical Association to try to stop doctors from doing things like osteopathy, which arguably have no bad side effects, while hypocritically protecting electrotherapy, which, while very wonderful, could have negative side effects, very strongly negative side effects. It is very safe. It's very, very safe, but there are things when things happen, right? It's a powerful treatment. So, while this is good medicine, electrotherapy, things like radium, things like pills, while these may be modern medicine and osteopathy may be considered old, what if in an imaginary world, 20, 30 years from now, what if radium and electrotherapy no longer were considered as correct and osteopathy is? And I'm not saying that will happen at all. I think I like to choose the truest of both worlds, but who's to say that we're right now? And if we make sure no one else is going to be able to speak, and there's only 30 schools, I don't know, doll, I don't know. I'm gonna let you rest. I think you are looking better. How's the headache? It's surprising I haven't left you with an earache from talking you to death. Alright, doll. I'm going to make one more adjustment here.